So good, so good, so good.
Everything you want for summer is at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and up to 60% off. Stock up and save on the brands you love like Vince, Sam Edelman, Frame, and Free People. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
If we can talk entirely frankly and off the record, when I went to meet the Emir of Kuwait, and you meet all the heads of state in Buckingham Palace, and I was told when I went to meet the Emir of Kuwait that you had to wait for him, because he was a member of the royal family, you had to wait for him to speak to you. What I didn't realise was that, in fact, it is the custom of the Arab princes always to wait for you to speak to them first. So I had quite an interesting meeting with him, really. We sat there in complete silence. Well, probably was only 2 or 3 minutes, but a very long period of time, at the conclusion of which I finally decided I had to say something, and I asked him, I do apologise for the daftness of this question, I said, well, how is Kuwait then? To which he replied, well, after the Gulf War it has been difficult. There was then another very long silence. So you'll probably think at the end of this evening that this completely disqualifies you from being Prime Minister. Anyway.
Welcome to Quiet Riot, the politics podcast that's more day rave than heat wave. I'm Alex Andreou.
And I'm Naomi Smith, here to bring a cooling breeze to the latest hot topics. We separate the smoke from the mirrors so that you don't have to.
All while giving you plenty of ideas so you can roll up your sleeves and take actions that will make our little slice of the world a better place.
So pour the Pims, slap on the SPF, and settle down in the shade for another Quiet Riot.
Hello and welcome to Quiet Riot. I'm Alex.
And I'm Naomi.
And I'm Kenny.
Now this week we look at the undeniable policy turn going on in pretty much every corner of the political landscape. Former prime ministers and aspiring ones alike claim to know what Starmer should be doing, yet within their own political tribes, their own political parties, even within factions inside parties, they have their own detractors too. Too many cooks?
And on Friday, I'll be bringing you Quiet Riot B-side, this week on the topic of the Senedd makeup and all the latest goings-on from Cardiff Bay.
All right, let's dive in. Best keep your mouth shut, mind. It might get a bit grubby in there.
Quiet Riot.
What this country needs tends to be the opening salvo of every pub bore up and down this country. It is, of course, not uncommon in a democracy, just like in football, for every spectator to be scoring perfect 6-minute hat tricks from the stands. We all have notions of what we could do if we were Prime Minister. Easy solutions can seem a little self-serving when they come from people like Nigel Farage or Andy Burnham, who have designs on getting the job. They certainly ring slightly more hollow when they come from people who did get the job and did not leave it with a universally accepted reputation for excellence, like Tony Blair or Rishi Sunak. Overall, the impression this week was that everyone knows exactly what to do as Prime Minister, either before they become it or after they have been it, but not while they are it. It is true, however, that everywhere one looks, Labour, Conservatives, Liberal Democrats, Greens, SNP, Plaid, even in the heart of the solo vanity project that is reform, there is a fierce debate about policy. Should we not celebrate that? Kenny, Tony Blair popped up this week, looking weirdly more and more like the demonized poster, I find.
Yes.
As time goes by, he's actually becoming that. With his monthly reminder about the AI revolution that is completely unrelated to the amount of money that he's getting from tech companies. But he also has some harsh words for Starmer, Burnham, and Streeting. I mean, is that helpful?
Helpful? That's my favourite question of the
It wasn't
year.
meant to be that funny a question.
Tony Blair popped up, poured petrol on Starmer, Barnum and Streeting, and then set fire to the three of them. Was that helpful? Well, I think it was helpful. It's kind of helpful in the way a car alarm is helpfully telling us all that, look, either the car is being stolen or that the alarm itself is a bit rubbish. I think actually we can milk this metaphor, because once that alarm's gone off 3 or 4 times, we're all saying that we just take the car and sod off, which is essentially where Blair is, I think, at this point in his career. I think that today, Starmer, Barnum and Streeting are probably not viewing Blair's intervention as being particularly helpful. But, and equally, which of us opened our news feeds this week and went, oh, great, I see Blair's pontificating again.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a serious side to it, because with 3 parliamentary by-elections next month, isn't it, including the Makerfield contest, which is going to be crucial for the future direction of the Labour Party, we would hope. I think it's fair to say that Blair's intervention wasn't only unhelpful for Labour, it was positively malevolent.
I also think that a big problem with politicians who have been popular is that they often don't know why they were popular.
Yeah.
And nobody ever really loved Blair for policy. He was revered because of his stunning ability to communicate, but he was never considered a great thinker. He had other people around him to do that, and that is a mark of a good leader. You hire people to support you in areas that you're less strong. And I think he's kind of either forgotten that or never realised it. And I do think that the headlines the report generated were not the ones the Tony Blair Institute would have wanted. The fact that a lot of it has gone big on him saying we shouldn't rejoin Europe, or that we can't because we're not a big enough economy to, that we should snuggle up to Trump and should have supported the Iran war. I don't think that that's what they were hoping the big headline messages would be, but yet there they are. So he's not even been great on the communication side of it this time.
All right, so let's put our fun aside. What was the thrust of his argument, actually? If you take out the predictable headlines, which were all about everyone else is wrong except me, what was the core, the meat and potatoes of what he was saying?
I mean, your basic point isn't mad. Labour needs a policy argument before it gets stuck into a leadership argument. I've said it before that if you've got 400 plus MPs, but you think the answer to your problems is anointing a man who's not even in Westminster at this point in time, then it might be that Keir Starmer isn't the real problem here for Labour. So, Blair says that Labour is stuck in a politics bubble. Fair enough. It lacks a serious analysis of the world it is, and it needs what he calls a radical centre agenda built around AI, surprise, surprise, but also built around growth, around welfare reform, for which read cuts, around cheaper energy, for which reads less net zero, around private sector confidence, that's cutting back on the NI contributions that employers have been landed with.
I would also interpret that as a bit of deregulation.
Yeah, it's not what you would call a left of centre manifesto. And of course, there's a tougher approach to illegal immigration in there as well, which is the politically practical element in what he's saying. And he's quite straightforwardly saying that Starmer should have ditched a bunch of manifesto pledges after he was elected, which tells us quite a lot about Blair and promises and how he plays politics. And he thinks that, Starmer should have cut welfare, cut workers' rights, eased the NI burden on employers, for example, cut net zero. And he said that Britain, Naomi, you've alluded to this, could only start talking about getting back together with the EU from a position of economic strength. So effectively, he wants Labour to stop treating the centre as some sort of bland, moderate area and start treating it as the place for a much more radical state reform,
Problem is, none of that sounds like centre. All of what you just listed is completely orthodox right-wing policy.
You took the punchline. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's it. That's what we were building towards. It's a lecture to the left of British politics, telling the left of British politics to be the right of British politics in many ways.
It was a 5,600 word essay, right?
Yeah.
And the cheerful title he gave it, "The Labour Party is playing with fire over its future and the future of the country." which could be a Daily Mail headline promoting reform, or the Tories before that.
Yeah.
You're dead right. There is nothing in this that screams social democrat to me.
There's very little in it that screams Democrat, to be
There's
honest.
a lot that screams full stop.
And even if you take at face value him saying, look, EU will negotiate with all the cards in their hands for us to accede to membership of the EU because they are such a stronger economy and ours isn't strong enough to have much leverage. Well, what is your prescription for growing the economy? Because nothing will grow it like membership of the single market and
AI,
exactly.
Right,
the AI revolution.
I've talked to a lot of business people about AI in the last fortnight because I've been meeting them for various discussions around the relationship with Europe and wider context of causes of Brexit in the first place. And almost all of them have said there will be at best a really serious time lag between the jobs going that AI erodes, or that companies pretend AI is eroding and therefore using it as a convenient excuse to reduce headcount, and new roles appearing that the people who have been displaced will be able to apply for if they are sufficiently skilled to do that. At best, you're probably going to have potentially a lost generation who won't be able to work.
Let's have a little listen to Tonti on Wednesday morning.
If this AI revolution is what I say it is, and if we need higher levels of growth as a country, which we obviously do, then even if you put these things in a manifesto, and let's be clear, I don't think Labour won the last election because people read the manifesto and said, this is what we want. I think people thought that Conservatives have behaved completely unacceptably, and to Keir Starmer's great credit, the Labour Party was an acceptable alternative. Now, when it came in, it saw the state of the inheritance. I think at that point, of course it would be difficult. Everything in politics is difficult. But if I'd been them, I'd say, look, all of these commitments, they may be very worthwhile. They may be proper commitments in easy times. But in these hard times, we've got to prioritise growth. We've got to prioritise support for the business sector. And this artificial intelligence revolution, we've got to grasp it, both its opportunities and its risks, with both hands. And so I think, yes, it would have been tough, but I think you could have explained to the country why it was necessary.
I mean, a lot of that to me sounds a little bit like a nan going, what about making some apps? What are them apps? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I find it a little bit sad, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because it really does sound like... interestingly, like a speech or a thesis that could have been composed by ChatGPT. It's that uninventive.
I thought it was quite interesting how Nick Robinson said to him, look, it was a pretty well-known secret that you were trying to form a Macron-style movement during the Corbyn years, and do you regret not doing that? And is this your attempt to do it now? That's how your thesis reads to me. And Blair doesn't deny that he was doing that. And that's the first time I haven't heard him sort of categorically deny having tried to do that. And of course, that's just the argument for PR.
I know.
These people should not be in the same party.
Yeah. And the thing is that Blair, when he was actually in power, I know that I made a joke of it in my opening, but actually when Blair was in power, he didn't do any of this stuff. He wanted to be liked. He wanted to be re-elected, and he spent like a sailor at a whorehouse. And so all of what he's prescribing now is absolutely not what he did when he was in power. And actually, economically, things were going very well. He spent a lot of money on public services, and now he's saying, maybe we should stop doing that.
I think that's such an important point as well, because when I'd read when I tried to read through the 5,600 words, it's like, why is he doing this? And then instead of going, why is he doing this? I thought, no, seriously, why is he doing this? What's buried in here? And exactly, and we joked about the AI stuff, but if there's something buried in the 5,600 words that makes my spidey senses tingle, it's the fact that he's putting this stuff out here yet again wrapped in the cotton wool of a Labour leadership row, wrapped in the cotton wool of general policy debate. And yet what he's really driving at is, yet again, come on, my paymasters have got some good ideas and I'm doing quite well at that. Thank you very much. And you know, I'm just deeply, deeply nervous about that.
Yes, it was the Ellison's Foundation donated something like 250 million to the Tony Blair Institute. So I think when he calls for cheap energy and AI-driven business growth, you've just got to assume that that call is coming from inside a very large oracle-shaped hole.
I mean, to be honest, I'd be writing op-eds if someone gave me that kind of money. I wanted to ask you something specific, Naomi, because I know you've got you're quite finely attuned, I think, to internal Labour Party politics. Streeting, I thought, had always been marketed as the heir to Blair, but they're now criticising him, you know, very much that side of the party, saying that Streeting is doing the wrong thing by pivoting to the left as well. Is there a sense that they've seen the polling, they know that Streeting is not going to make him, and some other candidate will emerge, do you think?
Yeah, totally. So as you've noted, Streeting has been marketed as Blair 2 since before he had a ministerial box. But now you're looking at very, very negative poll ratings for him. You've got YouGov poll of members on the 18th of May saying Burnham 47%, Starmer 31%, Rayner 8%, Streeting 4%. So like Liz Kendall numbers.
He's about as popular as Blair 1 right now.
Right, exactly. And
he's about as popular as Blair Witch.
And members actively dislike him. He's seen negatively by 60% to 35% amongst the members, and 57% of them think he was wrong to resign as health secretary.
Yeah.
And in a head-to-head with Starmer, members back Starmer 65% to 15% Streeting. And he's not popular with the public either. So even if he were to make it past the PLP and the members and get the job, public don't want him. Net favourability is -28. Even among Labour voters, he's underwater at -9. And he loses to almost anyone in direct contests, not just Burnham, but Rayner, Miliband, Lucy Powell, according to Labour list polling. So I think the Blairite wing isn't like betraying their champion. They're just noticing that the champion can't win. But you mentioned, is there another candidate?
Yeah.
And the Blair essay itself softens Streeting up a bit, sort of keeps the door open for him, but then enter another candidate on the horizon in the form of Shabana Mahmood. Now, cast your minds back to last year, or maybe earlier this year, feels like last year. Anyway, 5 or 6 months ago, she did a very high-profile joint event with Blair that was widely read as an endorsement, and she pointedly declined to rule out wanting the top job at it. And so, you know, this blue Labour figure, could she emerge as the Blairite alternative if Streeting's campaign never gets airborne? Well, her own numbers with members, 39% favourable, 46% unfavourable, are also nothing to write home about. And so I guess her path to victory is Burnham loses Makerfield, Streeting collapses, and the right of the party needs somebody to stand, and she potentially emerges as that person.
I think Starmer would win against her.
Yeah, me too.
If Starmer means what he says, that he will enter any contest,
of course,
I think Starmer would win against either of them, actually. Only Burnham is a danger to him.
Yeah. Alex, there are other parties that have waded in. Rishi Sunak, what did he have to contribute? Let's have a little listen.
There are two big structural forces that are happening around the world. One is the changing nature of geopolitics, which you've covered a lot on your show, America's role in the world, the importance of security. And then the other big structural change is technology and artificial intelligence and how that's changing everything. And I was speaking to your colleagues on Newsnight about that the other week. Those are the two big structural forces. And for us as a country, I think our specific challenges are, one, a lack of economic growth and having a clear plan to deliver it. And let's be honest, being up upfront and open with the country about the trade-offs that are required to deliver that, whether it's the level of social protection, the level of government spending, the degree of regulation. And then the second,
that's exactly what Tony Blair goes on.
And I completely agree with that. And the second challenge for us is this feeling in the country that we just can't get things done. And I experienced that as PM. Others have talked about it. And I think, candidly, over many years, we've put lots of checks and balances into our system of governing, all of which were well-intentioned individually, but over time have kind of formed together to make it very hard for the elected executive government to just get what they want to get done quickly. And I think we need to have an honest debate as a country about rebalancing all of those checks and balances so that actually the person we elect can just get on and do what they want to do quickly. And if we don't like it, the best check on that is ultimately an election where we can change them.
Alex, does he have a point?
Okay, so Rishi Sunak was talking about something completely different, in that he came out, his main thesis was about financial literacy. So he started this charity with his wife, and they're talking to the Department of Education about teaching financial literacy as a basic skill in schools. It's all very, very good and very worthy. I mean, the opinion piece that he wrote for the Times to front this, I was thankful to him for making what little time I have left seem so much longer while I was reading this piece. Let me just read to you 2 sentences. Our study also highlighted the importance of changing attitudes to maths, of treating numeracy as being as fundamental a skill as literacy. Adults with very poor financial literacy are 4 times more likely to say that maths was their least favorite subject at school. Thrilling stuff, I'm sure you would agree.
And also, easy to be financially literate when you're married to a billionairess.
Yes, I was actually, I couldn't help but remember when he said, well, we don't know what we're invested in because we've got millions, in so many things that I didn't know that my wife owned a chain of daycare places.
He didn't know how to use chip and pin.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, the mission itself is worthy, although I would suggest that the fact that it's so dry and boring does not encourage people to flock to it, and maybe they should look for a more exciting front person. But he was then embroiled in all the stuff. He was asked about the Tony Blair stuff, and he started saying, and it was quite an interesting piece of the interview, actually, where he said that the problem is you come into government and really you can't do anything. Certainly you can't do anything quickly. And when you combine that with people expecting instant change, those 2 things clash quite badly, right? So you come in with few options to make very quick change, while people expect ever quicker change, and those are not good ingredients for a democracy. Although, one thing I have to say is that throughout all his appearances, and Jeremy Hunt, who was touring the studios last week, not a single journalist asked them about, their 2 cuts to national insurance contributions, which really salted the earth for Labour, forced them into ruling out a whole load of stuff pre-election. So, if you're saying that prime ministers come in and their hands are tied, well, then you shouldn't have been the person that was also adopting the strategy of knowing you're going to lose and going out there to tie the hands of the incoming prime minister on purpose. So there is a little bit, I think, of emptiness to that argument when it comes from people like them.
So we've heard from Blair, we've heard from Sunak. Any word from other former prime ministers, Theresa May, John Major? Are they feeling a bit left out, do you think?
Well, I mean, Brown got a job with Starmer a month ago, so I guess he won't be coming out publicly to criticize them, but I expect everything. I saw a thing that said if someone had told me in 1996 that 30 years later I would be hating everything that was coming out of Tony Blair's mouth and be thinking that John Major actually makes some decent points, I wouldn't have believed them, but that's where we are.
Quiet Riot.
Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer ahead to learn more. See you this summer.
Quiet Riot.
Burnham, Naomi, he's been doing some weird pivots as well. He's been saying stuff on immigration about Shabana Mahmood, and he's been saying very left-wing stuff on economic things. Is he trying to actually win anyone over? I mean, if he gets through this by-election, his path, I think, to prime ministership is relatively clear. So should we want a contest, actually, that forces people to take positions? Or is it better to, like I was just saying, to not tie the hands of whoever might take over from Starmer too much?
Well, certainly don't tie your own hands and box yourself in with red lines as Starmer did and Rachel Reeves too. I'll take your question in two parts. So the thing he needs to win is Makerfield on the 18th of June. That is the first hurdle. There was a seat poll done by Survation. It had Burnham on 43, Reform's Robert Kenyon on 40, Restore Britain on 7, Lib Dem 4, Green 3, Tory 2, but a margin of error of 5.1 percentage points. And that is not comfortable. That is a coin toss.
Squeaky bum time.
Brown trousers time. So it and then you've got the Restore Britain spoiler effect built in. More on that in a bit. Reform, remember, won all 8 Wigan council wards in the Makerfield constituency. They got about 50% of the vote on the 7th of May. So it's only Burnham's personal vote keeping Labour competitive there. And then once over that hurdle, though, you're right, there probably are no realistic rivals to him for the big job. And remember that poll ratings I mentioned earlier for West Streeting. Andy Burnham has got 77% favourable versus 43% very favourable, far outstripping any rival on intensity, and 59% of members would choose him over Starmer. And he's, quite popular with the public in a 3-way Burnham-Starmer Streeting contest. He leads 29% to Starmer's 16 and Streeting's 8. That's opinion polling. And of course, he only needs 20% of the MPs to nominate him. And given that that would be 80, and 100 have already publicly called for Starmer to go, the mechanics are there. Should we want a contest was your other question. So the case for it is that it will force candidates to set out an actual project rather than slipping into a not clear ticket, which per Blair is exactly what got Labour into the mess in the first place.
Yeah.
It gives a new leader a mandate. It forces the soft left, Rayner, Miliband, Powell, and the Mahmood-shaped Blairite Streeting slot to make their arguments very openly. And then, of course, the case against is any contest right now is against a backdrop of Reform leading in the national polls, the economy looking very sickly, and the 6-week public airing of the family laundry is not obviously what anybody would really want.
Yeah.
The compromise position that is floating around is that Starmer resigns and the contest concludes in time for a new leader to be installed next year. So maybe after the local elections in 2027.
And so this idea of setting a timetable and a managed and orderly handing over, as it were.
And that has the advantage of giving Burnham time to be an MP for a year before becoming PM. Danger then being you've got, 18 months, 2 years to a general election. Will that be enough time, as you quite rightly pointed out earlier, that Sunak said, to implement change that can be felt in order to give you the poll bounce to then go on and actually be the largest party to govern the country after the election?
Can I poke that a tiny bit, Naomi? So are they saying to have the to have the leadership contest in relatively short order, but then for the changeover to happen later? Or are they saying for the leadership contest to happen much later?
The contest to happen later.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Keir
Burnham
would
wouldn't
say-
want that, right?
No, he wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's tenable. And I think people are relatively, impatient for change, and
Yeah.
particularly within the party, especially if you're an MP with a council in your constituency that's got all ups next year, or thirds up or whatever, and you're worried about losing even more elected representatives in your patch.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be very messy.
Out to the right, there's a bit of a rift has appeared in the centre of reform policy too, over precisely how mean to be to immigrants. Alex, this is one for you, I think. Who are the principal actors, and what are their very, very well thought out arguments?
So the principal actors are Zia Yusuf and Robert Jenrick. And they are exactly the opposite way than you would think.
Saying to me that a foreign person who is legally resident but lives in social housing will be deported under a reform government just because of that. They live in social housing.
Well, not exclusively because of that.
Well, that's what... But if you just said that's what you agreed with.
If they fail to meet our criteria because they're not in work, or they're not working in as many hours, not earning enough money, then they won't be able to renew their work visa because ILR won't exist, and they'll be asked to leave.
Oh, so you don't agree with
that? That is fair.
You don't agree with all of Restore's
let me
policies.
finish on the point about...
So Robert Jenrick is being the one that's being slightly more moderate on the immigration question, and Zia Yusuf is the one that's going, send them all home. And it's interesting that it is, and we'll talk about Rupert Lowe, but it is Rupert Lowe that's kind of lobbed the initial Molotov cocktail into this, because Restore Britain, which is his party, set out a sort of deportation policy and gave precise criteria of the people, a Restore Britain government would send home. And this was in an interview with Sky News on Sunday morning with Trevor. And Jenrick was then asked at some other event, what do you think of that? And he said that no, he doesn't see it like that. Sending people who are here legally, have citizenship, would not be part of the reform manifesto. It would just be things like social housing would be just for British citizenships and things like that. Someone posted a clip then, and I love the way the BBC is reporting this. It's saying that then Zia Yusuf replied in a way that seemed to be a rebuke of Robert Jenrick. I mean, he quote posted the actual video clip
There was no seemed
of Robert Jenrick saying that, and with a comment, Robert's answer is not reform policy. As a person responsible for our deportation plan, etc., etc. So there is definitely a little bit of a pissing contest going on there. The extra dynamics that I think make it, to be honest, utterly compelling as spectacle are the fact that Robert Jenrick is the Johnny-come-lately from the Tory party, and Zia Yusuf is very much the person who was there from the beginning and sunk a lot of his own money and time into this project. So we will see how this one is resolved.
I mean, I think it's a rift of how mean is mean enough. You've got Jenrick, who has actually done that job in government and has presumably therefore noticed that deport people who live in council housing creates quite an inconvenient situation. NHS nurses in key worker housing, families with British citizen children, etc. So he's trying to land somewhere that will survive contact with that Sunday morning sofa interview. Whereas Yusuf, who has not done the job in government, just wants the clean ideological line. And the funny bit is that the man currently writing reforms deportation policy is the British-born son of Sri Lankan Tamil
Yeah.
immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
publicly overruling the former Tory immigration minister on whether the policy is harsh enough. I mean, it's such a rich tableau.
Make no mistake, if I were writing this as satire, the natural denouement in Act 3 is that Zia Yusuf would end up deporting himself. There is only one way for this to go, dramatically speaking.
Right. But Labour have an almost identical row in the Mirror. Rayner has attacked Shabana Mahmood on her own ILR tightening proposals as being un-British. Starmer has gone wobbly on whether he backs his own Home Secretary or not. And so, it is interesting that both of the major parties of the moment are having a really public argument about how cruel to be to people who legally arrived a decade ago.
And that, to an extent, this is being, in many ways, the enzyme for this are, the Greens on one side saying much more reasonable things, in my view, about immigration, and Rupert Lowe on the other side saying much more unreasonable things, in my view, about immigration. And that is interesting, isn't it? That it's again the small parties.
Exactly. Farage spent 30 years being the outflanker.
Yeah.
And now someone, Rupert Lowe, is outflanking him. And the someone is being backed by the wealthiest man on earth, Elon Musk. And Lowe's claim is, if you put it very kindly, that Nigel Farage is just a poser. Putting it less kindly, it's that Farage is not serious about what the very online right will call remigration, and has therefore surrendered to the Blairite consensus on immigration.
Meanwhile, the Blairite consensus is sort of racing to the right.
Exactly. Remember, Musk fell out with Farage in January of 2025 when Farage refused to embrace Tommy Robinson.
Yeah.
He called Farage weak. And obviously is now, posting Restore Britain on X over the last few weeks, and responded to Rupert Lowe on the generic stuff. Farage then turns around in the Telegraph and says Elon Musk has decided he will try to split the right of British politics as best he can. This is supporting a party that's a one-man band with a social media account. Quite what he's trying to achieve, I have no idea.
No. I mean, this is potentially lethal for Farage, though, in terms of what he's come up against in his 30 years or so, dabbling in politics, even before he became a household name, because it really attacks his core brand, being the most authentic of the angry men in that angry shed that they all go and have an angry beer in. That's what brings in the money. That's what latterly has brought in the support. And it's taken a long time, all things considered, for somebody to pop up and to say, hang on a second, I can see the rules of the game here. Two can do that, can't they? This is as close to, how push it as far as an existential threat, but it's as close and as big a danger as Farage has faced, both personally from his personal brand's perspective, but also from the perspective of his political brand.
Quiet riot.
At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV! Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free. The
truth is
it's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Quiet riot.
Can I ask you something as a former sort of wet Tory, I guess? I mean, isn't this an area where the Tories, you would expect them to be articulating something a little more traditionally centre-right and be making loads of hay? And instead, I mean, I had to go and check it. I went on the Politico sort of, aggregate poll tracker to check this. When Kemi Badenoch took over, the Conservatives got a little bounce, were on 25%. And that was a fairly stable rating for about 2 months.
Yes.
And they're now 7 or 8% below that. They are at best on 18%, more often on 17%. And yet everyone is hailing this as a triumph of leadership. And I genuinely, I can't understand that. I can't explain it. What is going on?
Good luck. Good luck to anybody trying to explain it. I mean, the miracle of modern conservative leadership is that that sort of survival now counts as something approaching political momentum. I mean, you went through the figures. You know, the Conservatives are at least 5% behind Reform, and they're really about to be stuck in a three-way race with Labour and the Greens, potentially even the Lib Dems in there. I think that, you know, the weird bit is that Badenoch herself has improved personally. YouGov says her net favourability is now minus 17, which doesn't sound brilliant, but it's her best score to date. I haven't been able to double check this, but I'm told it's the highest for any Tory leader for 5 years. So, you know, she's doing something right in that little clique. But I think the way to view that is, you know, she's becoming more popular while the party remains electorally irradiated. She's basically living in the driest room in the Titanic. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's incredible that, you know, Reform moved ahead of the Tories shortly after Badenoch was elected leader, if you look at those poll trackers. And Badenoch's strategy of trying to outdo Reform in right-wing rhetoric has failed. But expectations have now collapsed so far for the Tories that Tory leader who isn't being knifed is now graded as a success. Like it's a triumph in roughly the same way that not drowning during a shipwreck is a triumph. Like
We're back on the
technically,
Titanic,
it's
haven't
correct,
we?
But the
Yes.
boat is still gone.
Yeah.
In fairness, not drowning during a shipwreck is a sort of triumph. But not if you were the captain.
Right.
What about the Liberal Democrats, Naomi? Are they making massive gains and getting into shape to be our next government?
No. There is tension, as I talked about before on the show, within the parliamentary party of the Liberal Democrats. Ed Davey has been leader for 6 years now. He is gagging to get that ministerial office back as a coalition partner after the next election. Wants nothing more than that car back and the briefcase and everything that goes with the trappings of office. I don't know that his parliamentary party will let him get there. I think they are fed up with the lack of national message. I think they are frustrated that they're not having more cut through as a more sensible, moderate centre-left voice than, certainly than the Green Party are much more successfully able to do. And who replaces him? That is the big question. There is an enormous cohort of brand new MPs from the 2024 cohort who are ambitious. Quite a few of them, I suspect, have got leadership designs eventually. And you have the deputy leader, Daisy Cooper, who is very closely associated with the Davey model of how to run the campaigning that they do and the target seat strategy.
Tell listeners what they're affectionately
Well, affectionately, they're known as Ed Daisy.
I laughed so hard when you first.
And Ed Daisy have got the problem that they are kind of seen as relatively synonymous in terms of how they take the first forward. And you've obviously got friend of the show, Layla Moran, who did challenge Davey last time round, but lost 2-1. And the membership has probably only got a bit more Ed Daisy curious in the intervening years. However, parliamentary parties certainly know that if they want to be making bigger gains, they are going to have a more national message and be prepared to battle in some SNP, Plaid, Labour fights, not just those that remain as Lib Dem Tory, now probably Lib Dem Reform battles in the south of England.
Yeah, it's worrying that there seems to be a sort of carve-up of Tory seats between Liberal Democrats and Reform. I mean, I know it's unspoken, but that seems to me to be the carve-up.
It is. Kenny, we need to talk about the other nations. I do have a question for you about Northern Ireland, which I'm happy to chip on, but I think you've been doing some reading on it. the DUP's former leader is embroiled in a sex abuse case.
Mm-hmm.
Sinn Féin went backwards in 2 Republic of Ireland by-elections, and the SNP in Scotland has had a bit of a rough week this week too. Give us the down low on it all.
I mean, well, let's start with the DUP stuff, because it's quite grave and it needs legal caution, obviously. Jeffrey Donaldson's trial has finally got underway at Newry Crown Court. For those that haven't been following this, he's up facing 18 sex-related charges, including rape and gross indecency, charges which he denies.
And they are counts of rape and indecency with or towards children.
Yeah. I mean, anybody wanting to know more about it, log on and see what the BBC have written about it. That's the legally safe stuff. There's nothing happy around the allegations, quite clearly. It's a shadow that the DUP doesn't need to be hanging over at any point, far less now. But that's underway, and that's going to drag out over the next week or two. Donaldson's wife is also facing charges. She's charged with aiding and abetting him in his alleged crimes. She's been deemed unfit for criminal trial, so she'll face what's called a trial of facts in Ireland.
That's where the jury determines whether she committed the acts but can't return a guilty verdict. They can only acquit, I think.
That's right. So there's a horrible, horrible case there sitting above all the politics, really, in Northern Ireland. Meanwhile, on the ground, Sinn Féin have had a bad weekend in the Republic. Fine Gael and the Social Democrats split 2 Irish by-elections that happened there, and Sinn Féin managed to lose ground to both the Social Democrats and rising right-wing candidates. It's a familiar story, really. So, it's grubby over there at the moment, and frankly, the sooner this sort of passes, I think the better for everybody, not least the alleged victims. And you mentioned what's been happening in Scotland. This has been a long time coming. The SNP's former chief executive and Nicola Sturgeon's former husband, Peter Murrow, after a long drawn-out process, he pleaded guilty to embezzling more than £400,000 from party funds. And again, go and read the lists of the things that he bought. Everything from cars and camper vans to Grand Theft Auto and, pens and tumblers and knickknacks and things. But he blew £400,000. How much of that the authorities are going to be able to recover? Very little, I would imagine. So it's a blow to the SNP. And it's also prompted fresh attacks on the party's credibility and governance. There, as you'd expect, there have been some half-hearted attacks on Sturgeon, but she's not under investigation. And quite frankly, I think the SNP will be very glad when Murrow is jailed, as he inevitably will be in the next few weeks. He could be facing some quite serious time for this as well. The courts in Scotland treat this sort of thing very, very seriously indeed, and there ain't no mitigating circumstances. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's facing 5 to 7 years. It's going to be a big sentence. Once that happens, the SNP will be keeping their fingers crossed that they can really start to move forwards. Most importantly, though, that this is the last of the skeletons that are lurking in this particular closet.
So, Naomi, it looks as if Plaid Cymru is just about the only party up and down the aisles that will feel they're on the right path, right?
Well, indeed, because the Greens did have quite a turbulent time of it recently with various allegations about Zach Lansky's council tax.
And they had to can the candidate that they put up in the Makerfield election.
Exactly.
Some stuff came out, so then now they're on their second candidate for the Makerfield election.
Yeah.
It's not been a happy ship over there either.
Well, I don't want to spoil what's going to come in Quiet Riot B-side, which is out on Friday, listeners, so make sure you're tuned in for that, where I talk to Will Hayward. But I think the point that we made earlier about impatience of the electorate will be Plaid's biggest challenge. They are forming government, yet to be determined as to the makeup of it. They are short of overall control of the Senate. And they have published their first 100-day plan, which is more or less a plan to write some more plans. And that, I think, is the risk for them, that we have got an increasingly impatient electorate who just want things to start feeling better very, very quickly. And they are going to have to pull some big ticket things out of the bag to make people feel that they get it and that they are going to deliver. I don't think that they'll have as much time on their hands as they probably do need to undo some of the very, very mega structural issues that put Wales at the bottom of the league table on all sorts of things, not least health.
But at least they're not on fire while they're doing it.
Not yet, no.
Quiet riot. Quiet riot.
All right, what random acts of humanity have been winding up our friends on the political right this week? Let's find out in this week's Wokie Dokie.
Wokie Dokie.
Alex, come on then. Outrage is all.
So, I want to talk about a role-playing game called Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Now, the Kingdom Come franchise is quite a well-known franchise in the gaming community. It's actually very good. It's like a really good RPG to play.
So it's you play on a computer. It's not live action role play.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Its sort of creator, a guy called Daniel Vavra, is a bit of a cause célèbre in the anti-woke community, in that he is one of the key people who took the side of the assholes, basically, in the Gamergate controversy, and made a big name for himself by being quite toxic in all of that. And he's kept this reputation going, and he's constantly posting stuff and saying things and designing games that reinforce that ethic. Fast forward to 2026, and Deliverance 2 has been nominated for 2 gaming magazine awards. That's GAY Gaming.
All right.
Okay.
Gaming.
Gaming.
Yeah, so they're in the running for Gaming Fan Favorite Award. And Hans, the character that has a same-sex romantic arc in the game, is up for Best LGBTQ plus Character Award, which is quite the journey. I mean, I am here for the Henry Hans romance. I want to hold Hans' hands. But it is a bit of a turn up for the books for this particular guy.
Good.
And the reaction from the bro community has not been very welcoming, as you might imagine. So he put out a post last week, which was just an extraordinary mess of a thing, saying, and I read, "Trigger warning," he writes, "I absolutely stand by the fact that the way we did it is exactly how something like this should be done. Non-coercively, naturally, and educationally. Because we show how things really were in the Middle Ages without idealizing them and without shoving it down anyone's throat or trying to re-educate them like so many titles that rightfully are called woke these days." So what he's saying is that he's educating rather than re-educating, and that his choice to play a gay character in his game is not woke because reasons.
But also there is no better way to trigger the anti-woke than to start anything with the phrase "trigger warning."
Yeah. Well, he's doing it kind of ironically, but so yes, it's very, very peculiar. It does remind me, I don't know if you know this, there is a legendary post by a gamer very much in that same space called Hideo Kojima, who has created many quite famous games, and posted more than 10 years ago now, I think, during Comic-Con just out there to the world, and I quote, "Just so you know, it may look like a rainbow flag t-shirt that I'm wearing today, but I am not a gay." So it really has that vibe to it. So, Mr. Vavra, we are here to welcome you if there's something that you would like to announce to the world, but obviously not in a gay way. Just like you are now putting gay character arcs in your games in an educational way that is not woke at all, and insist that everything everyone else is doing is obviously still completely woke and to be condemned. So this week, I guess, woke is not woke. Is that right? Not woke is woke. No, woke is not woke. Yes, woke is not woke.
Either way, Alex, thank you for sharing something that's clearly got the right wings. It's got hands in their pants, hasn't it?
Oh, Hans is a dreamboat.
What about Henry? What's Henry's take on this going to be?
He's all right. Typical lazy bottom, I think.
Oh, here we go. Listeners, don't forget that our other beloved regular feature, Grin and Share It, now gets covered in our Friday Quiet Riot B-side show. So tune in tomorrow for that.
Quiet Riot.
Right, guys, let's wrap things up because I've got a sun lounger and a very delicious Aperol Spritz with my name on it waiting for me. Thank you both for today, and a huge thank you, of course, to all of our listeners at home for tuning in.
Likewise, thank you as well, Naomi. Everybody out there, again, don't forget our latest B-side episode's out tomorrow with a look at the latest political dramas in wonderful Wales.
And if you would like to support the work that we're doing and putting it out all at the same time without any paywalls or delays for anyone, you can do so by becoming a monthly subscriber on ko-fi.com/QuietRiotPod. You will have our eternal gratitude for it.
And we will be back at the weekend with Sunday School, so you never have long to wait to hear us again. But if all of that isn't enough, don't forget our sister shows, Podyssey and Behind the Lines, both have fresh episodes out this week too.
We love you more than Henry loves Hans. Bye.
Bye.
Quiet Riot is an audio production by Cooler Heads with Naomi Smith and Alex Andreou. Produced by Kenny Campbell. Music by Mariana Sangita. Artwork by Simone Canelu. And edited by me, Alex Reese.
Quiet Riot.
Well, I've literally shut the windows because the birds are making a racket. So I'll get weaker and weaker as the show progresses. But you know why.
It was such a mistake to eat some kind of nut just before recording. I can't get it all out of my mouth.